Hello, viewers, and welcome to JCTV Zimbabwe, your channel of choice for all your political analysis, your sports analysis, health talk, and everything that is social. We are here to analyze every situation that is happening in Zimbabwe with no fear nor favor. And today we are going to be talking about the much publicized topic, the topic of the 31st of July, 2020. It has been highly publicized, and a lot of activists have been arrested. And this is a burning issue. And if you check even on social media, it's the most spoken topic, the one that was trending even last week. Free Hopo, Free Jacob Ngarivume, and a number of issues that are happening right now in Zimbabwe. So today I'm joined by Mr. Robert Chiota, and he's going to be talking to us. Mr. Robert Chiota is a guru, is a guru in the area of finance, and also he somebody who helps people that are doing startups. He holds a BBS honors in finance from the University of Zimbabwe, and he's got various diploma qualifications, and he's got over 24 years of experience in the field of investment management. Mr. Robert Chiota, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Okay. Mr. Chiota, maybe for starters, maybe you can just give us a brief background of who you are and what you've done, and looking at the overview of the economy of Zimbabwe. What do you think that there is hope, or what are the things that are people doing wrong that are holding the economy of Zimbabwe at ransom?
All right. Thank you. Basically, I've worked in the financial services sector as an investment manager, fund manager, investment analyst, and I've also worked as managing director for quite a number of companies. And now I'm in consulting. So in terms of the economy in general, I've had a lot of experience in terms of economic analysis and economic commentary and research. So basically that's my background. I've been with quite a number of banks in the country, and also investment institutions like pension funds and asset management companies.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So tell us, right now in Zimbabwe, we have this economic downturn that is happening. The bond note that has been introduced, I think about about a few years ago, somewhere around 2016, it's devaluing each and every. Like right now, we can say each and every week it's going down. Do you think there is hope for Zimbabwe in these circumstances? And if there is any, what is stopping us as an economy to grow?
Right. In terms of the currency, the Zim dollar that you asked about, let me say, it's not necessarily a question of the number or the exchange rate. To say, most people have this mentality, this view, that if you have an exchange rate of, say, $1 is 200 Zim dollars, that's a bad thing. It's not necessarily about the number. It's about the fundamentals and about the stability of the currency itself. Since the Zim dollar has been introduced less than 2 years, you obviously have had fluctuations in the market. But those fluctuations, from my side, and even from an analysis point of view, it's not a bad thing entirely. It's a bad scenario in as far as it brings uncertainty and price escalations is concerned. But from the point of view of price price stabilization, market sort of equilibrium exploration,
Yes.
I would say that the Zimbabwe dollar was still sort of exploring the equilibrium rate at which it should trade. So I don't think that on the current aspect, what has happened is not something that we can say is entirely new and entirely negative. It should be expected. But my concern really is in terms of speculative tendencies that has sort of exaggerated the currency depreciation. Those
Yes.
speculative tendencies by the parallel market, that's what would have been harmful. But I would say of late, even as we speak now, probably for the past 6 weeks or so, we have had stabilization as brought in by uh, the currency auction, foreign currency auction by the Reserve Bank. So if you look at the past couple of weeks, we have had a stabilization, whereas the parallel market rate was running over 100 or around 100. Now it is sort of stabilized at around 75. I was reading today that the current auction, the latest auction has been around 75. So that's a good sign because we have had stabilization in terms of the currency. But I want to sort of bring this point also into our viewers. I want to bring this to the viewers as well.
Yes.
It's not entirely the number itself. I've checked it with other African countries. For example, in Uganda, you have
Yes.
3,500 Uganda shillings to $1.
Mm.
But there is stability there. Even in
Okay.
Mozambique, their currency to the US dollar is probably around 70, 59, 60, 70, thereabout, but there is stability there. The Japanese yen is 113 to the US dollar.
Mm.
And there is stability there. So I'm trying to say just a number to say, we are going to 100 Zimba per US dollar, therefore our economy is in shambles. It's not entirely correct. The Zim
Okay.
dollar was floating or exploring to get a rating, market rating, of which market rating I think now, thanks to the foreign currency auction system, we have had quite some form of stability. And I think this rate is where we are at the moment. And I'm confident going into the future that this foreign currency exchange system will work, especially if the supply side continues to be addressed. It will work because in as far as you would have seen over the past 2-3 weeks that we have had fuel prices. Sometimes they were about $1.30 in terms of
Yes.
petrol. Now it's coming to $1.05, $1.10. So obviously, you have seen fuel prices coming down in US dollar terms. But this is the stability that has been brought about by the foreign currency auction system.
All right.
So it's not entirely negative as people might want to say. Let's look at really what's happening on the ground. Yes, there has been turbulence and it has been one way from 25 to about 100. But since then, since the introduction of the foreign currency auction system, you have seen stability coming to the market.
All right.
So I would say, yes, our economy, our currency there was a lot of instability in there. But to be honest, it would be expected, one, because we introduced a new currency, and this new currency had to have a rating against the US dollar. So all that was happening was our currency trying to discover the price, to discover the exchange rate. And now we have had some form of stability at around between 70 and 80 as
All
we
right.
speak.
All right. Say, I would like maybe as you are saying that probably the narrative is totally different from the one of the men in the street and from the narrative of someone who is in the financial sector. But say I would like to maybe bring you to the issue of maybe the GDP itself. Are we out of the doldrums looking at us failing to produce enough food supply for the nation for the past 2-3 years, even though there was introduction of command agriculture? Where are we getting it wrong?
All right. That I've said, the currency, in terms of the exchange rate and the currency, the introduction of the Zimbabwe dollar was positive, and the exchange rate instability was a sign of or a way of price discovery or exchange rate discovery, if you want. That does not necessarily mean that I'm saying everything is okay. We have
Yes,
challenges in terms of productivity, as we have said. Our agriculture sector, which is the mainstay of our economy, for the
yes,
past 2.5 or so, or 2 to 3 years, has been sort of hampered by issues to do with, Cyclone Idai, drought that we have had of late. So
yes,
there are bottlenecks or issues, external factors that have has also sort of worked against our productivity. As you know, if there is below normal production in agriculture, that
yes,
lower production in agriculture will sort of have a ripple effect throughout the whole economy.
yes,
Transportation and milling and everything goes down, is affected as well. And then we will
yes,
need a lot of foreign currency also to import food. So there was a lot of pressure on the local currency because we needed a lot of foreign currency to import food. And as you know, if we are importing a lot, it means we are buying the US dollars. So if we are
yes,
buying the US dollars, we are selling our local currency. So if we are selling a lot of our local currency, then that causes the depreciation in the currency that we were talking about. So I'm not saying we are out of the woods. In terms of production, we still have problems. And I'm of the view that we need to sort out the agriculture sector and sort out the agricultural sector in terms of funding.
yes,
Command agriculture, yes, it played a role at some point, but there were issues to do with administration, and
yes,
also there were issues to do with external factors like drought, uh, and but besides that, besides command agriculture, besides government funding, we need also to finalize and fine-tune our land ownership system, our land tenure system, so
yes,
that we give confidence to the banking sector to be able to finance or to be able to lend towards agricultural activities. So, yes, our production is still very, very low. We need to improve, but the starting point is agriculture. We need to work on agriculture. I'm glad, and I know I've been following issues in terms of the mining sector, that there are
yes,
plans there to expand, and there are new projects coming in. We have heard of new gold mines in Masvingo, Dawendo platinum projects, things like that. So the mining sector, there are quite a lot of exciting projects that are coming online, on live. But the agricultural sector is where we need to sort things out. Why the agricultural sector in particular?
mm,
This is because it is a sector that is the biggest participation by almost everyone in the country.
yes,
Whereas you can have a limited, whereas you can have limited number of miners, but in terms of agriculture, everyone has a piece of land, whether it's
yes,
subsistence farming, A1, A2, A3, there is the largest sort of land is our largest asset, and we have the largest players in the agricultural sector, whether be it commercial A1, A2, A3, or subsistence farming. But that's where we have the largest participation, economic participation. So we need to pay adequate attention to that sector. That will help us unlock our economic productivity issues.
Right.
So, in short,
okay.
I'm saying production.
Okay.
We need to work on our production.
All right. I wanted
and
to.
Having said that, we need to work on our production. This year, however, since March, we have had issues. The COVID-19 issue, which has also worked against our thrust to boost production, because we have had to lock down almost most sectors of the economy. We have had to lock down. Even agriculture, although it was not locked down as such, but the production level there will also scaled down. So this year, our production, in as much as we would have wanted to boost our economic activity and production levels, COVID-19 has also come into play. So we are dealing with external factors, a lot of external factors there. Drought in the agricultural sector, land issues there, and then economy-wide, we have COVID-19 issues to deal with. So yes, we agree we need to sort out production, but we have issues that we need to deal with.
Right. Maybe on that issue, sir, I would like to ask, we have like in Zimbabwe, we introduced the land reform program. Before we go into our main subject today, we introduced the land reform program, and people were allocated land, the A1, the A2, and and I think you are preview of the list that was released by Mr. Alex Magaisa, who released the list of people who benefited from farm mechanization scheme. You and I know that, building an agrarian economy like ours, it would need time. We know we need time. But it looks like we are still we are still being affected by these external factors. Why is it that we find it hard to prepare ourselves or to build that tenacity as a nation, to build strong tenacity that whenever there is drought, when there are external factors like cyclone, we are well ready to face them? Because it seems like we're still trading on the same foot where we were about 10, 15 years ago.
Yes, it's quite an exciting observation. We don't seem to be growing as much as we would have wanted to be at another level. But I think the bottom line, or the bottleneck there, is about our land ownership, or our land tenure system, our land ownership model. Because one, when we implemented the land reform, it was sort of a bit disorderly.
Yes.
But as if that were not enough, we did not follow that disorderly exercise with ownership title, or with title to every landholder, so that when every landholder has title, they can easily access bank and pledge their land as collateral. Our land sort of ownership now is not as smart as banks would want, or as the financial services sector would want to bank on.
Yes.
So there are very few farmers that can walk to the bank and access funding producing title. So we need to sort out our land ownership issues. But the main thing that we need, besides ownership, it's more to do with our system.
Yes.
Remember, before we embarked on the land reform program, remember we had, in the old days, we had AFC, Agriculture Finance Company.
Yes, yes, yes.
which is now Agribank.
Yes,
It was designed to just finance agriculture full time.
yes, yes,
There
yes,
is no other sort of business to do it rather than just finance agriculture. So
yes,
besides that AFC, we had actual banks that were also financing agriculture, but we had
yeah,
a dedicated company financing agriculture.
mm,
Now that AFC is still there as Agribank, but I think it was also incapacitated by probably reduced financing. But as you
yes,
know, until recently, it was also added onto the sanctions list.
yes, yes,
It was also on the sanctions list. It was only removed from the sanctions list this year. So, as you know, Agribank was now on the sanctions list as well, and they could not even finance agricultural equipment or finance agriculture in as much as they would have done prior to our land reform program. That's when then you saw the Reserve Bank coming in, trying to distribute farm mechanized equipment to all farmers. That
mm,
was like trying to circumvent the 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 bottlenecks that were being faced by Agribank, because
yes.
Agribank has been placed on sanctions.
So
So
it was
yes,
incapacitated, really.
yes. So yes, we don't seem to be growing as much or to be developing our agricultural sector in as much as we would have wanted to. But we have these issues. My suggestion and recommendation is that we address the land ownership issue by giving the landholders, the current occupants, we after the auditing, the land audit is done, then
Yes.
whoever is settled properly should be given title. That with
What,
that title,
what about there was an introduction of 99-year lease, which would also probably bring in some of the white farmers who might have left the land, and were suggesting that introduce the 99-year lease. Is this something that would interest financial players to come on board and say we can they can I mean, if somebody has got a 99-year lease, is this something that is viable for them to be able to get a loan from a bank, or get financing for their land in order to bring efficiency into that farm so that it can produce to the basket of the country?
yes, 99 years is, uh, even though they are regarded as less perfect than title deeds, they are
Yes,
nevertheless title that
yes,
can be, they are nevertheless title that can be accepted by banks. The
yes,
only issue that I saw, or the only issue with the 99-year leases, banks were not readily accepting them, not because the 99-year leases themselves were faulty, but
yes.
banks were looking at the general uncertainties regarding the land ownership and the land reform. Because
All right.
remember, some people were still being removed. Even if you
Yes,
hold a 99-year, you will still be removed and the land being given to someone else. So
yeah,
eventually, banks say, even if you now hold the 99-year, this process looks like it's ongoing. It has
yeah,
not come to finality.
yes,
So the issue is, yes, even if it's 99-year leases or it's title deeds, whatever land title that we use, let's bring this land issue to finality so that there is certainty. So that when you produce 99-year lease or title saying you own from A, the bank will not be sort of anxious that perhaps farm A will not be yours by tomorrow.
yes, yes,
That
yes, yes,
uncertainty is what sort of made 99-year leases not widely accepted by banks, but they are title and they can be accepted anyway. But I'm saying the systematic or the industry-wide uncertainties in the land reform exercise and land reform ownership system is what made banks fold their hands regarding that. So we need to bring finality in the land reform issues. Even after the land audit is done, the farms should be given to people on a final basis and finality, and then we can declare to say that, yes, it's done. Our land reform is now finished. So that banks can now reasonably accept any title on land that is brought to them. Then you talked about bringing in where there were issues of commercial farmers coming back, and also coming back either on their own or coming back to do joint ventures with local farmers or indigenous farmers. As far as I'm concerned, that's a positive aspect. Remember, I said land is our biggest asset. Now, that biggest asset, if that biggest asset is well utilized, or if that biggest asset is employed to the maximum, we can jumpstart our economy.
Yes.
But so we don't need to say it's white, black, or yellow. It's not important. It's to say, let this biggest asset that we have be brought to use, be brought to utilization. So I would even say, if there are farmers out there, whatever race or creed, that want land, I would say the government should welcome them. Because what we want is to say, if we are only using 30% of land now, if we are only using 20 or 40% of agricultural land now, why don't we bring these commercial farmers who have expertise, who have knowledge, who have been on land for a long time? Why don't we bring them in so that we take our land utilization from 40%, for example, to 80%?
Yes.
Because once we now say our land is being utilized, then our economic problems will be over. Our problems now, if you say we are having issues to do with prices escalations, for example, food insecurity, it's because there are very few farmers that are growing maize or that are growing food on the farms. Some farmers just got the land and then they stopped. They just went there for 2-3 years, then they stopped production. As a result, most of the land is lying idle. So rather than land lying idle, why don't we bring it to full utilization? And the full utilization will bring our farmers in our diversity as a nation. Then we shouldn't look at race, creed, or whatever. We should bring our farmers in our full diversity and then profit from our diversity.
All right, sir. Let's move on to the big elephant in the room, the issue of corruption. You and I know that there is as I highlighted to you earlier on, that Mr. Alex Magaisa has released a list of people that benefited from the farm mechanization program, but some of them did not pay back, thereby probably putting a big burden on the Reserve Bank. Right now, we know that some activists have been arrested for issues to do with corruption that is rampant in government institutions or parastatals and some SOEs. Do you think that we are tackling corruption head on, or we just have a toothless bulldog that is maybe probably the ZAC? Is it doing its utmost best to make sure that we arrest and make sure that corruption does not continue to milk our resources that we have, and we then thereby failing to give us more production, even on the agrarian side, even on the mining sector?
All right, thank you for that. We all agree, every Zimbabwean agree, that corruption is bad, and it's a problem that we need to root out completely so that we develop as a nation. So that's a point agreed, irrespective of political affiliation, irrespective of who you are. We agree that corruption is bad and needs to be dealt with.
Yes.
Then I have one observation to begin with. Everything is relative when we look at issues. everything is relative. The current momentum to fight corruption,
Yes.
in as far as it does not meet our full expectations as citizens.
Yes.
Relative to the previous government, to the previous regime,
Yes.
what we are seeing now is a marked improvement, because we have evidence to say if they have 2 or 3 ministers who have been arrested and put in and sort of who have been arrested and who have lost their jobs because of corruption, and that never used to happen, mind you. So that's why I'm saying it's relative. It never used to happen.
Sorry,
It never
sorry,
used to happen in that manner. So
sorry,
now that
sorry,
we have,
sorry, I
yes,
need to interject you.
yes,
But you know, you are well aware of the former minister who had funds that were looted at GMB. You know, the former minister who had funds that was looted at the former minister of finance, who was actually jailed during the time of the previous, maybe what you might call the previous dispensation. So, is it not like the same catch and release mantra that is happening?
all right. There is that perception, though, because we have not, although ministers have been arrested and taken to court, most or no one of them, or none of them has been really convicted and is serving time. But we have a former minister, I'm told, that is serving time now because of corruption. So the perception of catch and release is to some extent by the general public justified, because we have not seen ministers serving time or serving jail terms for corruption cases. They have been arrested, taken to courts, and tried. And then sometimes, because of lack of evidence or because whatever issues, they have been released. But I want to say, in terms of I'm not delving into some area that I might not be well familiar with. In terms of the law, for corruption cases, it has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes.
So sometimes we cannot. It has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt that this is the case, so that the judiciary can give a sentence. But when there are cases of issues of probabilities, sometimes we may not be able to secure a conviction. So my thinking is that also as much as we should not put much unnecessary pressure on the judiciary or undue pressure on the judiciary, our investigative arms, like the police, like ZAC, should gather credible evidence that they know that once this goes to a court, the culprit is nailed without exception. So it's not like we would say it's someone in government doing catch and release because the judiciary is independent. They wouldn't be told to say this minister. They just look at the evidence that is there. If there is no evidence, they can't convict someone for lack of if there is no evidence. And I'm sort of the view that where we are lacking is our investigation. Because I'm saying my position, and I'm assuming a judiciary that is as competent as we know them to be, that if you bring them hard evidence, they would not really discharge someone. They would not really discharge someone. Sometimes the judiciary, I will not speak for them. I will not speak for them. But sometimes when they when they discharge someone, it's because there's lack of evidence. And I'm saying, before we rush to courts, let's have hard evidence that we know this evidence can secure conviction.
All right.
That's
Okay.
where our challenges mainly is coming from. Hard evidence that can secure conviction. Because sometimes we are going to courts, and then when things are being sort of judged in court, the evidence is not coming. And when there is no evidence, I think Zimbabweans now, they say V11. When there is no V11, surely you are making it difficult for the judge or for the judicial officer. The perception out there is that A, B, C, D is corrupt. But when you take them to court without evidence, without V11, you make the job difficult for them. And remember, this other guy or this other person accused of corruption, in terms of the same law, they are regarded as innocent until proven guilty, and they will only prove them guilty by producing evidence. I'm saying the law is not my side, but from my observation, I'm seeing as if where we're lacking is investigation. Investigations and gathering evidence, hard evidence that when we take to court, we have 90% chances of securing convictions.
All right.
And then I was saying also, yes, I got a point that there are some convictions that were done in the previous regime, and there are convictions that are done here. But I'm saying, let's not also, in terms of the public perception, it's like they are saying nothing is happening. Let's look at things that are happening and say, the fight for corruption, it's a legal fight. Even if you think that I am corrupt, but when you don't have evidence, you take me to court, you just waste resources because you don't have evidence, and I will walk scot-free. Then the public perception is that I'm corrupt. That public perception is not backed by evidence. I think you heard some press conferences from some political parties, including ZANU-PF, who were saying, if you guys have evidence, please bring it. If people are pleading for evidence, say, please bring this evidence that we have. All right. It's because they want to ensure a conviction. So I also am of the same view that if we have any physical evidence of people, then let us take them to ZAC, let us take them to police, so that we get conviction. Corruption, fighting against corruption is not just like president's responsibility alone. It's not ZAC's responsibility alone. It's not judiciary responsibility alone. It's you and me. It's everyone's responsibility. I would have want to find out why is there no corruption in some countries like China. Some people were telling me that because there is death sentence. And I would have said, why don't we just have death sentence for corruption in Zimbabwe too? Because death sentence is very effective to stem out corruption in other countries. Then why don't we have it in Zimbabwe? To say, for corruption, there is death sentence. And then everyone knows that, hey, if I'm caught, that's it. If it's the most, as we speak now, people are saying if there is a perception that there is corruption, some people are saying, even if I'm alleged to be corrupt, I will hire a good lawyer, my good lawyer will defend me, and I will be discharged. Because investigation, like I'm saying, the investigation is somehow not up to conviction standard. So one, we need to tighten up our investigations to gather hard evidence that can secure conviction. And then secondly, in terms of catch and release, you are assuming the one who arrests or the executive and the judiciary are the same. So the executive and the judiciary sits down and say, we arrest this one and we release them tomorrow. But the judiciary is different. The ball game there is bring your evidence. If you have evidence, conviction. If we don't have evidence, we can't be unfair. The law says innocent until proven guilty. So
Yes.
if you don't have evidence, you cannot expect the judiciary to convict someone. So that's why I'm saying this case and this scenario is a perception that is less accurate because you are assuming the executive and the judiciary are one and the same thing. And at some point you heard the president complaining to say, I cannot go and instruct a judge to convict so and so.
Yeah.
The judge just weighs the evidence brought before them and makes a decision. So even the president himself was complaining that there are less convictions. But why? I think, and we can't blame it on the judiciary, we can't blame it on the president, we blame it on the we blame it on the investigations. For cases of corruption, we should.
Before you continue,
yes.
One might say, you know that when one is arrested and before they are taken to court, in the interim, there is possibility of tampering with evidence, and you know that as you are saying that corruption is in communities, in individuals, in corporations. So in the interim, before I go to court, I'll make sure that I find my alibis that are going to make sure that I tamper with the evidence, so that whenever the investigation is going to be done, there is no evidence that can nail me. So that is probably the problem. So how best can we deal with such a problem whereby in the interim, before I go to court, the evidence is tampered around with to such an extent that even the investigating officers, they cannot be able to produce evidence that they can present before the courts and get a conviction.
That's where the problem is, because we also need to balance the rights of people. Because ordinarily, you and me, we would say, if we just suspect so and so to be corrupt, then to prevent them from tampering with evidence, we just arrest them and lock them up, and then we finish our investigations once they are locked up, so that they cannot tamper with what? With investigation. But again, there are those as well, human rights as well, to say they are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. So there is that sort of gray area where we say you cannot do what you would want, because obviously everyone will say, they have not been given fair chance, they've been incarcerated without evidence, why did you not gather evidence first before you arrest them? So it's a difficult area there. But I would say, I'm not sure how the powers of ZAC are. I would say if ZAC are empowered, they should be able to say, to do their preliminary investigations, perhaps off-site, gather evidence off-site, without necessarily alerting the victim or the suspect, without necessarily alerting them, because once they alert them, then the person will try to cover up. So without necessarily alerting them, alerting the suspect, and then when they move, they should just move swiftly to arrest them, not this arresting and then or questioning. If they question you and then they release you again to go back, obviously when you go back, you go to try to tamper with the evidence, as you say. I would have suspected that, I would have wanted a situation where if someone is suspected of corruption and there are reasonable basis, they are taken in for questioning and then they are imprisoned, or they are confined, or they are prohibited, or there should be some form of limitation. They should not have access to their offices. They should not have access to who and who. They should not be able to tamper with evidence. But you can only prevent them from tampering with evidence if you imprison them. But
All right.
now, that's where the law comes and says you cannot imprison them unless if you have a case against them. So we might need to bend some rules in terms of the fight for corruption. The fight for corruption should be able to suspend some rights to individuals of rights.
Maybe to come to your point that we are highlighting, that the issue of probably bringing a death sentence, we have in the likes of you look at the UAE, you look in much of in the Middle East, or even if you look at in Asia, China, North Korea or South Korea, and even here in Africa, in Libya, they were so tight about corruption, and they managed to nip it from the bud, to say they bend all those rules in order to save an economy. Why can't we introduce that, to say that even the legislators that are in parliament, to bring in laws that are going to be tight on people who are committing such crimes, because they're actually killing our communities.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's the best way to go, because ultimately it's about we would want to eliminate corruption forever. And to eliminate corruption forever, you would fight it like you are fighting terrorists.
Yes.
It's like terrorism. So with terrorism, with fighting of terrorists, you suspend these so-called rights or legal rights or individual freedoms, and you go to the extreme. So unless we do that, unless we go to the extreme in terms of adopting ultra measures, we might not, or we might take long to defeat corruption. But I'm saying we need to bend rules. We don't need to be properly or to be soft and democratic, because when you are fighting terrorism, when you are fighting a terrorist, sometimes you suspend those freedoms. So I'm saying, in terms of corruption, it should be taken just as terrorism. But in Zimbabwe, what we have seen now is just the flouting the word corruption without evidence. That's where the worry is. We raise the hype that you so-and-so is corrupt, and then we take them to court without evidence. And then when we take them to court, the judge sees no evidence. After the judge finds no evidence, then they release them. Then people complain and say, catch and release. The issue really is we need to do a lot of investigations. And we need to tighten up on tampering with evidence as well. But we need to be ultra. We should not really, that's why I said we should treat it as terrorism. You cannot catch a terrorist and then release them so that you can arrest them again tomorrow. When you catch a terrorist, you arrest them and finish all your investigations whilst they are in camp. So that's what we should also do with corruption, if we want to do, because I think the major point is the tampering with evidence and the covering of all evidence is very rare, because you cannot explain a situation where you go to court and then eventually the thing fizzles out. I wouldn't blame judges, because judges want evidence. And when we go to court without evidence, we make it difficult for them as well. So let's. I would have wanted that situation to say, in some Arab countries, why is there no corruption, or why is it less? Why is there less corruption?
Than here in
how
Africa.
Do they treat?
Yes.
How do the Arab countries treat corruption cases? How do they treat drug cases? If they hang, or if they kill, or if it's a death sentence for drugs, death sentence for corruption, why don't we do the same? That's the only way we can win it.
Yes.
It might sound ultra, but it's not ultra. in the sense that the cost to the economy is significant. The cost to the economy is significant, and we might not be able to measure it, but the cost is huge. But I would also have wanted to bring this point also into being. The point that I would have wanted to bring into being is let's not say even if we win the war against corruption, then everything in Zimbabwe is right.
Yes.
Let's not say that, because our economic challenges, if you go by history, our economic challenges started around the year 2000.
Yes.
Around the year 2000, that's where we took back our land. And that's where sanctions were imposed around 2002 then.
Yeah.
And if we are saying corruption, we are also assuming that corruption started around that time. So I'm saying it's not necessarily corruption alone. There are other issues as well that we have to deal with, because the corruption did not really start in 2000. Our economic challenges, our turmoil and everything started in 2000. When we go back, we see what happened in 2000. We took back our land. When we took back our land, obviously, perhaps if the land utilization was 50%, and then we gave it to our local farmers, then utilization fell, perhaps to less than 20% or 20%. So our challenges started because production in agriculture fell because of as a result of our land reform. But besides the land reform, sanctions also came in. Hard on the back of land reform, sanctions followed. So, and then, so that's where our challenges came. And then corruption, it has come up as a main issue over the past 2 years. People have began to say it started over the past 2 or so years. But I wouldn't say it has been there since 1980. Yes. So even if it has been there since 1980, our economy was performing well from 1980 to about 2000. Yeah. With corruption, assuming corruption was there. With corruption, the economy was performing well.
So it was at a certain. So are you saying that it was at a certain level whereby it does not affect much of the economy? Maybe let's get into the issue of sanctions that you are talking about. But maybe the question that I might ask you is that we look at maybe the economies that I've mentioned to you. Let's take, for example, Libya. Let's take, for example, North Korea. They were been under the sanctions from the United States, and the likes of Iran, they've been under sanctions for quite some time. But because of the minimization of corruption in their country, they've managed to pull through. Like, let's take, for example, closer to home here in Libya, under the leadership of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, the corruption was very, very minimal, and their economy was so strong to such an extent that people would get grants. And you know that now Libya is in doldrums because of the ousting of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, but their corruption was next to zero because of them introducing extreme measures. Can we say that even if we don't have power over the sanctions, why can't we deal with what we can deal with, which is corruption?
That's okay, and I accept that. I accept that point. It's a valid point to say, yes, there are some countries where we have succeeded in fighting corruption and their economies were doing well. Yes. It's a given point that when we fight corruption, it's a plus. It's a plus in terms of our economic development. It's a plus. The point that I was just trying to say, to bring about, is to say corruption is not it's one of the issues that we need we need addressed.
Yes.
Because we might say it's easy and then we address it, but later on we find things not working. So I was trying to say, let's not focus on it as if it's the only
Elephant in the room.
Yes, as if it's the only elephant. There are other things as well to address. But I agree that when we address corruption, we make a significant positive impact on our economy in terms of even investment. Foreign direct investment will also begin to view us favorably. But also, that foreign direct investment is impacted by sanctions as well. Once you are under sanctions, foreign direct investment will not come. They will not come. They may perceive you as being risky because you are under sanctions, but also corruption will also be playing a role to push them away. So, yes, we need to address these issues as well, the other issues as well. I was also just saying as well, besides that issue of corruption, I was going to say the characterization that people want to demonstrate on 31 July against corruption. It's everybody. People have rights to demonstrate against issues. People have rights to communicate and bring issues to the attention of their government. That's what a democracy is about. You are expressing your views, whether through demonstrations or through what, or to say, you, our government, address this and that. But I would say, why stage a demonstration against corruption now? One, when we have COVID cases rising, and then secondly, when we know that corruption is not 2 years old, it has been there. Why were you not staging demonstrations against corruption for the past 40 years? Why are you staging demonstrations against corruption now, and more so during a COVID year? That's then say, yes, corruption is there and we need to do it, it's bad and we don't want it. But did it start today? Why stage the demo today?
But you have
during a COVID outbreak period. Are you being human? Are you being responsible to your fellow human beings, to your fellow citizens? Because if I invite you, to walk through a lion park or a game park that is infested with lions, I invite you to walk across that. Am I being responsible? Particularly if I'm saying do this and I am in hiding. Am I being responsible? Am I being a responsible politician? I'm looking at that to say, how can I, as a responsible politician, send people to demonstrate in the street without considering the risk due to COVID?
All right.
And so I'm saying corruption, yes, we need to deal with it. But the timing. Suppose people turn up to go and demonstrate. After the demonstration, you have another 10,000 people dying with COVID. Do you think that you as a politician, or me, if whoever has called that demonstration, do you think you would get the satisfaction that you are a responsible politician? Because in any field, you have to be responsible. Even in politics, we need responsible politics. You cannot be reckless with people's lives. You wouldn't do that to your family, to say to your kids, go into the street, demonstrate, don't worry about COVID. You wouldn't do that to your kith and kin. So let's politicians who are responsible, who above all protect human life, who above all protect human life. Because I think of those rights also, one of the basic rights was the right to life. You see?
Yes.
So let's not put people at positions which expose them, and they may end up violating their right to life. So I'm saying corruption is bad. Corruption, we need to deal with it. But I'm sort of worried with the timing, because I would not really, as a fellow citizen, fellow Zimbabwean, I would not want my countrymen to fall victim to COVID simply because some irresponsible politician just opened their mouth and said go into the street. So we need to do these things. And then secondly, so that's the point number one. I was saying, when we do corruption, we need to do with it, but the timing is we have not done any demonstration against corruption over the past 40 years. And we are doing it now, more so now during a COVID outbreak period. Is the timing correct? In my view, that timing is incorrect.
Yes. There you are, viewers and listeners. We are having Mr. Robert Chiwota. He is explaining to us the challenges that we are facing as an economy, and just talking to the point that he just highlighted here, that yes, we can agree that corruption is bad, and we need to take, drastic steps in making sure that we address the issues of corruption in a way that will nip corruption straight from the bud, so that we can probably have some positives, even if we are under sanctions. But is it the right time for us to demonstrate? But maybe one might say that right now we hear, in the United States, their cases, actually, they are topping the world in terms of the cases of COVID-19. But they are protesting about the Black Lives Matter, about the police brutality. You go to Israel, they also have cases that are rising, but they are protesting against the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu. And I also was, as I'm watching the news, you find in the countries like even Cambodia, people are protesting because they say we don't have livelihoods, we need to go back and work. So probably one might say that we are going to do it, but we are going to do it responsibly. Allow us to do it in a responsible manner. Maybe we have few people that are going to picket at a place, doing social distancing, holding our placards, just telling our government that we are going to be, we do not tolerate corruption. Is it something that can be done? Why do we have to clamp down on people that are planning the protests now before we know their plan of action?
Yes, I agree with you in the view that we need to allow them to express, because those are views those are rights that have been guaranteed in the Constitution, that we need people have the right to demonstrate peacefully. Now, in as much as they have a right to demonstrate peacefully, in as much as we have rights to demonstrate peacefully, the government also has a constitutional duty. There's a constitutional duty to maintain peace.
Yes.
To maintain peace. So, in as much as we have rights to demonstrate and demonstrate peacefully, the government has a duty to maintain peace as well. What I was going to say was to observe this point, to say, I am not sure in terms of the requirements of for exercising peaceful demonstrations. I understand that you have to notify the police. Have they followed the provisions to notify the police? If so, what has been the feedback? And then secondly, I would have expected the convener of the demonstration or the host of the demonstration to to publicize their COVID-19 prevention precautions.
Okay.
Or I would have expected them to say, come on the third one, but have a mask, keep social distance, this. So they are not even paying any precaution or any attention to any COVID-19 precautions. Because I would have expected the convener to be responsible by saying, yes, we want to be peaceful. And we have done these measures to educate our participants that there is COVID-19 and that they will be keeping social distance, they will be having their masks, they will be having A, B, C, D. So the convener themselves have that responsibility to convince the authorities to say, don't worry about us. We are not going to be causing violence. We are just going to express our petition to the government, but we have taken precautions. We have said every participant will have A, B, C, D. I think if people had that, anyone would view them as being reasonable. And I was going to say also in terms of the law, I don't know. The conveners themselves, do we have any law? Do we have any law that the conveners or the host of the organizers of the demonstration themselves will ensure that there is no violence, there is no like stoning of shops, break-ins of shops, there is no burning of property, there is no, the conveners themselves, do they have they put in place those mechanisms? Because they have to, it's in their interest to convince the authorities to say, we have put in place these mechanisms to ensure that there is peace, because the Constitution says we should demonstrate in peacefully. We have put these measures to ensure that we are compliant with COVID-19 regulations, because we have to follow COVID-19 regulations. So the organizers themselves have a duty to educate the public. And so that's my view. And I was also going to say, I am not sure if our laws specify who, in the event of violence or in the event of damages and burning and looting, who pays or who bears who pays compensation. I would have expected that our laws should put it on the host or on the organizers of the demo to say, in the event that there is loss of property, there is violence, there is what, you are liable and you shall pay damages. That way, it would make sure that those that are trying to organize demos will take appropriate precautions.
Yes. Maybe as we wrap up, say, because we are now, I mean, we are now over 1 hour talking about this. Maybe what is the hope for the children of Zimbabwe right now that are facing, you know, that our economy right now, we have so much of informal economy where people buy and sell, and these measures that have been put in place of curfew, of lockdown restrictions that are making it difficult for them to trade or to make an income. Is there any hope, even though with this time of COVID-19, is there any hope for Zimbabwe or hope for the people that are in informal settlement, informal business, and the people that are working in the formal jobs? Is there hope for our economy to grow or to become an economy that can be reputable or that can create more employment? And as you highlighted earlier on, that our agrarian economy, we are not using it to the full capacity. Is there any hope, and where do you see that hope coming from as we wrap up?
Thank you. I would say in Zimbabwe, or for Zimbabweans, we need sort of to be hopeful, because if you look at your social media itself, there is pessimism everywhere.
Yeah.
And people are like condemning, saying everything bad about their country, about their nation. So that society, that's such a society already, because we are in pessimism. It's one area where we need to overcome. So we need to have a positive perception of ourselves as a
Yes.
nation.
Yeah.
The perception should be we aspire to succeed, not
Yeah.
to just criticize, not just criticize anything that is done in the country. There are some very positive things in the country. It's only that we tend to look on the negative side. But we need to be positive as Zimbabweans. Then, secondly, on the formal sector, I understand because of the COVID issues, it's a very difficult period, and
Yeah.
I do consultants in those areas as well,
Yeah.
on SMEs. So it's a difficult period for all of us in that sector. But
Yeah.
I have been telling my colleagues in that sector as well to say wherever we can do business online via
Yeah.
social media,
Yeah.
Facebook, WhatsApp, wherever we can do business online, let's do it online, because
Yeah.
like we all know, it's more important to preserve life. It's more important with COVID. It's about prevention. Prevention is far much better. I was reading some statement from WHO
Yeah.
this afternoon, where they were
Yeah.
saying any journey that you want to embark on, or anyone that you want to go and see, meet physically, consider it as a life and death decision,
Yes.
because
Yes.
they were
Yes.
saying that's what it is. It's a life and death decision, because we don't know whether
Yes.
that person is infected or not, and we don't
Yes.
know whether you will come back free or not. So
Yes.
that's my last words to the nation, is to say, please, let's make sure that we are on the prevention aspect, because treatment, as we know, there is no treatment for this disease. So prevention is important. And then secondly, in terms of the economy, let's remain in hope. Let's work in as much as we are curtailed in terms of our movement, but we can make use of social media to do business as well. Let's work in social media to do business. It's actually sometimes more advantageous. You are no longer limited to geography. You can
Yes.
do business across nations. You can do
Yes.
business across continents. So your market is no longer your neighborhood or your suburb. Your market is now the the highway
Yes.
of internet. So
Yes.
let's look at the positive as well as entrepreneurs.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So
Wow. Wow.
basically, that's what I wanted to say. But let's be hopeful. It's very, very important that we as a society remain hopeful. Challenges are there, yes, but
Yes.
challenges are also overcome by us.
Yes.
Challenges are not meant to overcome us. Challenges are not
Yes.
meant to destroy us, but we overcome the challenges and still go. If we look in the past, how many challenges have we succeed, have we overcome as Zimbabweans, as a nation? We have come through a lot. Cyclone Ida
Yes.
is the most recent we overcame. You see?
Yes.
So no matter what challenges we face, we will still overcome.
Yes. Yes.
So let's not be condemning our nation. Let's not talk negative about everything that is in Zimbabwe. It's not that. Because if you go to other countries, if you happen to be going to other countries, perhaps even in Africa, outside South Africa, of course, other countries outside South Africa, you sometimes say Zimbabwe is not as bad as we think. So
Yes.
Zimbabweans, let's work on our country, whatever political differences we have, we are the ones to overcome them.
Yes.
We
Yes.
can
Yes.
negotiate, we can sit down, we can talk, but we are the ones to overcome them.
All right. Say.
Thank you so much.
Before maybe I let you go, if there's anyone here you want to have, maybe you have a question to Mr. Robert Shiota on the subject that we're talking about, please feel free to join in so that, or maybe you can put your question on the comment section, that something that you want to ask Mr. Chiwota before he leaves. But before I do that, Mr. Chiwota, how can people find you? I know you are a consultant person. How can people find you online, and how can people get in touch with you?
All right. The easier one is my Facebook is just Robert Chiwota.
Yes.
And my Facebook page is just Robert Chiwota. And then secondly, my WhatsApp number, it's
Yes.
0773
Okay. Let me just put it out there. It's +263 +263.
773
Yes.
416
Okay. 773
104.
416104. There you go. 773-416-104. There you go, Mr. Chiwota.
773 416 104.
All right. Yeah, that's it. There you have it. That's the number if you want to get hold of Mr. Chiwota. If you have your business, you want some advice on how to grow your business. This is the man to see. And I'm not seeing any questions from our comment section. Is there anyone who wants? I see you, Bongani Nyaze. Thank you for joining us. I see you, Mr. Henry Jere. Thank you, Lady Scaraby. Thank you for being part of the program. Ado, thank you, Ado, the Ado Show, Costi TV, Abigail K. Thank you for being part of the program, and everyone else who has been joining us. Mr. Chiwota, thank you so much for being part of the program. Before I let you go once again, is there anything that you wanted to tell the people of Zimbabwe as we close the program? Maybe people that are thinking of going in the streets, what is your word of advice about this issue of 31 July?
My advice is stay safe. We all have our democratic rights and freedom of choice. If you do have to go out, follow the COVID regulations and stay safe. We would want to be responsible because even in terms of our constitution, the freedom, the right to life is one of the first rights that we have to protect. So the right to life here is under threat from COVID. We need to safeguard that. So my advice is, whether you are, wherever you are, whatever you are happening, Zimbabwean citizens, please stay safe.
All right. There you go, people of Zimbabwe and everyone that has been watching this program. It has been a joy to be with Mr. Chiwota. And believe you me, I approached him on such a short notice, and he turned up. Thank you so much for your knowledge and for the information that you're giving us on this channel. Thank you, Wimbai Wacho. Thank you. We see you there. But anyway, Mr. Chiwota, I have to let you go. Thank you for being part of the show. There is your Mr. Chiwota's numbers that I've given you, and you can also follow him on Facebook and LinkedIn. It's Mr. Robert Chiwota. He does consultancy, and he's got a company so that does consultancy. So if you want to know more about financial literacy, that is the man to see. So Mr. Chiwota, thank you for gracing us today. And we had to keep you for more than an hour. It was really interesting to be with you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Chiwota, a financial consultant and somebody who's got so much experience. We have been talking about the issue of the 31st of July, and the question that we're asking is, yes, there is corruption. Yes, there is mismanagement of funds in our state institutions. But going to the streets, is it going to solve our problem, especially facing the issues that we have of our hospitals that not have enough medicine? Yes, I agree with you that we really need to hold the government to account. That's the reason why we have these platforms. But the question is it a responsible action to do if we go in the streets in the protest? Are we not putting the lives of the people that do not have enough health care at risk again? Uh, uh, Probably you might have a different view, but this is my view. I believe that yes, there is corruption. Yes, there is mismanagement. Yes, there is that need for us to confront the government and institutions and people that are mismanaging funds, that are directing funds that are meant for the public to their own pockets. They need to be held accountable and they must be arrested. It must be done away with. But for us to go in the streets, is it the right way to do? Then the clampdown on the journalists, the clampdown on people in the media, was it the right decision for the government to do, to take these people and put them in or incarcerate them? Why not charge them and make sure that they do not perpetrate what you think is going to happen on the 31st of July? So, I mean, in my language, in Shona, we say, it's on all both fronts. Which side is right? Is it the government that is right? Is it the civil rights and the opposition parties that are calling in for the march against corruption? This has been the subject. You are free to be part of that subject. Let's continue the conversation on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, JCTV Zimbabwe, on all these platforms. You are welcome to go and visit on that, and let's continue the conversation on those platforms. But this has been your boy JC, reminding you that rise up, Africa and Zimbabwe. The world is waiting for you. I'll see you again next time when we tackle another subject.